Today's episode of Fun with Cars, we're going to put a left front wheel bearing in this Kia Borrego. Borrego? What is that? Well, if you know, you know. You can hear the bearing, it's pretty loud at 60. Alright, taking off the left front wheel. Okay, well, I already had the other three lug nuts off, so. Alright, so the wheel bearing is a press bearing in here. We're going to use a special tool I bought off Amazon. This is what the bearing looks like, the new bearing. I'll put a link in the description for these. I paid basically 40 bucks, I think, for a pair of them. Just a standard bearing. This one's nice and smooth. The one that's in there is making noise as I showed you. Alright, so here, this is their custom cotter pin, I guess. We'll call it that. Looks kind of like a, I don't know, 8-penny nail, maybe? Something. See if we can get this thing out. Looks like somebody has been in here before, obviously. Maybe we'll put a new cotter pin in there, huh? Alright. Off. I already took the 36mm nut off the axle shaft, and then we got to get the tie rod end off. We'll have to get the sway bar link off. That sway bar link I put on earlier in the year. Take this bracket off of here. I'm trying to get this spindle out or down so we can get to the bearing on the back side. Come down here and show. Okay, there we go. Now we had to break out the big gun. Got this thing red hot with the torches. Because this thing wouldn't come off. Now, if you don't have torches, you can split that nut with. Alright, while we got this still hot, I'm going to impact this with my air hammer. There, it's out. I'm going to take these two bolts out for the caliper bracket. Leave the caliper on. This will get the this caliper bracket off. Then we can pull the rotor off. And we'll see what we're working with. I did just put new brake pads and rotors on this year, so, and I anti-seized all this up so we can get this off. Give me a little bit of a hard time. There we go. Also, want to mention there's a 13mm bolt holding these two pieces on. Now the rotor can come off. Now we're exposing the bearing and everything. Now this is a tricky part because here's our ABS sensor and the tone wheel. We don't want to damage this, although it looks like it's bent already. We want to get this off. There's another bolt we got to take out here holding the wire. I think that's a 10mm. Okay, 10mm bolt holding the top bracket for the wheel speed sensor wire on, I believe. We're going to take this out and disconnect the wire, and then we're going to take off the tie rod end. Got the bolt out, this bracket is off. Okay, we're changing our strategy here. I took the bolt out, the wheel speed sensor, and then I'm going to gingerly pull this out like that. That's how we're going to do it. I think it finally came out, maybe. Alright. This thing's gonna fight me. Just It's just how it's going to go. Alright, so we got to get this hub out of here without damaging this tone wheel right here. You don't want to hurt this. It's already got a ding in it from, that was not for me. You can tell it's been that way for a while, so. But, we'll try to straighten it out. So, I'm going to start by can't tell if it's moving, but let's assume it is. Alright, I'm trying to get this bearing out without taking this whole bottom. Ideally, we would take the bottom ball joint out, but I got this thing to move. I'm using a socket. Alright, taking the snap ring off. Whoop. That's the snap ring that goes in there. And then this bearing is going to come out towards the inside. We just got to make enough room for the tool to fit in there, hopefully. This is the bearing removal tool kit. I'll put a link in the description. I did a review on this tool. It works pretty darn good. You find the one that fits in here. That's a little loose, so we don't use that one. That's the one I'm using. It's got a space in between there to get through. We're using this one, and there's a sleeve that goes on the opposite side. I think we'll probably use this one. We'll check it. Alright, here's how the tool's set up. This sleeve goes on the inside so the bearing can go into it. The puck is on this side. There's washers on. I have a tool review. I'll put a link. And we start tightening this, and it should draw the bearing in. Baby's in there. I got 2 breaker bars. It is turning. If I use a breaker bar, I can get this thing to go. Maybe I can use the ground as the other advantage. Definitely a little tight, but it seems to be working. I'm not going to show all this because it's boring, but it might take some time to get this thing through. But it feels like it's going now. Feels like it's moving. Maybe the air will do it. Let's see. Not yet. Alright, you can pause it. We're going to switch this around quick. Okay, so what does that do for us? It drew that right out. Well, this bearing, this puck that I put, you know, it came apart. The rollers are on the ground, but I don't think I used the exact right puck because this is stuck in here, this race. So I got to try to drive this thing out of here. Then we'll get the new bearing ready to go. Okay, we're getting this inner part of the spindle cleaned up with the wire brush. Getting all the rust and any imperfections out of there. We got a little whizzy wheel, I call it. I'll clean it up even more with that. so that when you press the new bearing in, it goes in smooth. We'll clean it real good and grease it up, then it'll go in. As you can see, the backing plate is missing from this spindle. That's alright. Alright, so I cleaned that surface. I use automatic transmission fluid with wire brush, wire wheel, Wizzy wheel. Clean that surface out, clean the groove out real good, and then we're going to grease this now, and then we'll put the brand new bearing in. Alright, here's the brand new wheel bearing. That's nice and clean. I'm going to put some, this is wheel bearing grease, axle grease, whatever, on both surfaces, the inside and the outside. If you really want it to go smooth, heat this up, put the bearing in the freezer. That'll make it come in a lot easier, but I don't think we're going to need to do that here. So set this bearing in place. You can feel it getting started. Once I got it like that, bring our tools in again, and in this case it's going to go this way, and then we got it all set up, the outer sleeve out here, because we're drawing the bearing in. The puck I use is a little different, but same idea. Ready? Watch the bearing if you can right here. This is going to come in. You can see this. I cleaned this all up. I cleaned this hub all up. I straightened this and painted it. We got the snap ring in on this. See the snap ring right here? That's all clean and in. You know, if you get a new snap ring for $3-4, that's not a bad idea. This one was in good shape. This bearing had been replaced before. I can tell by the witness marks somebody had to cut the inner race off, which amazingly it came off without taking the inner race of the bearing out. So now I'm going to grease this. I'm going to put this in place. Then we're going to use our bearing install tool to draw it in. Alright, so we got that all greased up. This is going to go in here. Get this kind of started. Got to be very careful of that tone ring. I'm going to put this on. I'm missing washers here, and then the nut that goes on here. Alright, we finally got it going in. Here we go. Alright, the bearing is seated. There's just a little bit of what to do. The snap ring is seated. I don't know if you can see that. Snap ring is seated. Bearing is in place. Nice and smooth now. Now we can start putting it back together, and then the final thing will be torquing the axle nut when we get it that far. Alright, we're now at 55 miles an hour. This is after. You can listen to before. Now this is after. What a difference a wheel bearing makes. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.